Prophecy, Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18 in fulfillment. Luke 23 verses 34 to 35 stripped him before the stares of men. The Bible, a sacred text, contains prophetic verses that foretell significant events with astonishing accuracy. One such prophecy is found in Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18, where the psalmist declares, "I can count all my bones, they stare and gloat over me, they divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." This profound prophecy finds its fulfillment in the New Testament, specifically in Luke 23 verses 34 to 35, as Jesus is stripped and crucified before the stares of men. In this essay, we will explore the prophecy in Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18, examine its fulfillment in Luke 23 verses 34 to 35, and reflect on the profound significance of Jesus' humiliation and suffering before the eyes of onlookers. Unveiling Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18, the prophetic description of humiliation. Psalm 22 is a powerful psalm filled with prophetic significance regarding the suffering and triumph of the Messiah. In verses 17 to 18, the psalmist vividly describes the humiliation and degradation that the Messiah would endure during his crucifixion. The verses read, "I can count all my bones, they stare and gloat over me, they divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." This powerful prophecy foreshadows the specific manner in which the Messiah, Jesus Christ, would experience shame and public humiliation. The fulfillment in Luke 23 verses 34 to 35, the stripping before onlookers. The fulfillment of Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18 is strikingly revealed in the Gospel of Luke, specifically in Luke 23 verses 34 to 35. As Jesus was crucified, soldiers and onlookers mocked and derided him. They cast lots for his garments, fulfilling the prophecy that said they would divide his clothes among them. The verse in Luke 23 verse 34 records Jesus' words of forgiveness for those who were crucifying him, reflecting the fulfillment of the psalmist's description of the Messiah's response to his humiliation. In this moment, the fulfillment of the prophetic promise in Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18 becomes evident. Jesus was stripped and crucified before the stares of men, fulfilling the prophetic description of his humiliation and the division of his garments. The profound significance of the humiliation. The fulfillment of Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18 in Luke 23 verses 34 to 35 carries profound spiritual implications for believers and all of humanity. 1. The fulfillment of divine plan. The fulfillment reveals the divine plan of redemption in action. Jesus' humiliation and suffering were not accidental but rather part of God's purpose to bring salvation to humanity. 2. The suffering servant. The prophecy and its fulfillment emphasize Jesus' role as the suffering servant who willingly bore shame and degradation for the sake of humanity's redemption. 3. The message of forgiveness. The fulfillment reflects Jesus' profound compassion and forgiveness even in the face of intense suffering and humiliation. His words of forgiveness demonstrate the boundless love and grace of God. 4. The redemption through his sacrifice. The fulfillment underscores the redemptive power of Jesus' sacrifice. His humiliation and crucifixion paved the way for forgiveness and reconciliation between God and humanity. 5. The invitation to humility and compassion. The fulfillment invites believers to embrace humility and compassion. Just as Jesus willingly endured humiliation for others, we are called to follow his example by loving and serving one another selflessly. Conclusion. Psalm 22 verses 17 to 18 prophetically depicts the humiliation endured by the Messiah, and Luke 23 verses 34 to 35 powerfully fulfills this prophecy as Jesus is stripped and crucified before the stares of men. The fulfillment highlights Jesus as the suffering servant, his message of forgiveness, and the redemptive power of his sacrifice. As we contemplate the fulfillment of this prophecy, may we find profound significance in Jesus' humiliation, the one who willingly endured such shame and suffering for our sake. Let us respond with gratitude, love, and unwavering faith to the one who humbled himself to bring us redemption and eternal life. May his example inspire us to live transformed lives, characterized by humility, compassion, and a willingness to forgive others as we share the message of his redeeming love with a world in need of hope and healing.